Part 2, original poster. I think I already know, but I'm in denial, wondering if it takes time for her to finally get it. Reader comment. But isn't that the core of it? You married her and took vows to love, honor, cherish, and protect, and went on your merry way to do just that. You say your relationship cooled over time, especially the last 4 years, and you seemed to just accept it or saw that anything you tried to show her live and affection hit a big wall without any change of finding a path to her heart. And isn't what was in her heart the real issue here? You were playing a game without knowing any of the rules or the fact that there were other players trying to defeat you. Or even worse, you were fighting a battle without even knowing you were in one. And all through it, for all those years, she held 2 men closer in her heart than you ever were, at least during that time. She cried with them, she at times laughed with them, and quite often she made love with them. I don't think she could say with a straight face with either of them that it was just sex. If she can, she's a sociopath. She loved them and again made love with them, and quite possibly conceived a child with one of them. And what I'm trying to say again and will again and again, that if you were and truly are in any part of that heart for her, she wouldn't be saying give it time when discussing you and what she wants and her feelings about you. She'd be driving the recovery train. She'd be researching what she should be doing to help you heal and rebuild a destroyed relationship. And then she'd be doing those things as proactively as she can. And that's why I think it's important that you show her you're not going to waste one more second of your life waiting around for her to do those things. Mostly because you shouldn't for you. You deserve 1,000,000 times better than you've gotten. And so, until you get 1,000,000 times more from her, begin to take the difficult steps to move on. People around here will tell you I am very pro-reconciliation. But that's only when I see a wayward partner who is all in on trying to do that work. But I get damn angry when I see a cheater stomp on his or her partner's tender heart, and then after DDAY make it seem like she's doing a favor to even stick around, and blames and gaslights their heartbroken spouse into thinking this was all their fault. I have yet to hear what I need to in order to encourage you to put 1 more ounce of yourself into this recovery. You say she fully hates the AP now. I don't believe her, and encourage you not to as well. If she did, she'd want to do everything and anything she could to make this right for you. And the fact that she isn't proves to me that even if she did hate him, that absolutely doesn't mean she loves you. She is broken. She has made disastrous choices in her life, callous choices that show she just didn't care about you at all. And now we're supposed to believe she does. Give it time is not the words you'd hope to hear from someone who wants to show their man that they are ready to finally be dedicated to spending their life proving their love. She should have day 1 worked to find a specialist in infidelity to begin work with immediately. She should be writing in journalism and making written plans to fix what is almost unfixable. And even then, even if she were, I'd advise you to get a lawyer while she was working to prove herself. I hope you hear what I am trying to say. You are whom we care about here. You are whom we support. You may someday be able to reconcile with this person down the road, but not with whom she is right now. The only way I see to love her again, to hold her truly in your heart again, is to find pride in the work she does the next months and years and yes, decade. Pride in how she changed. Pride in how she fixed herself. She's not off to a very good start on that journey. I hope that changes. I really do. But you can't be the one to make that happen. Only she can. And if I were you, I'd tell her exactly that. Original poster. I genuinely have tears in my eyes right now reading your post. Why? Because I know it's true. I'm not feeling anything like what I should be feeling from her. I am just feeling crushed. My life is in the shutter. The perfect life. Wife has been destroyed. I am completely broken. I am going to go away for a couple of days this weekend and try and get my head together. Thanks all again for your collective wisdom. I am not going to do something stupid. I am trying to find the resolve to move forward and have decided I can survive and possibly thrive without her. I have booked a mini breakaway as said, leaving this morning. Do worry what she'll be up to, but part of me is now thinking can't get any worse, can it? Why didn't she just divorce me? Can't understand it. Thanks again for all posters on this thread, some good suggestions and especially useful posts about her possible reactions. Thought I would provide a quick update. Back from a mini break and it gave me some time just to think about what I want and need moving forward. I decided to ask the wayward wife to go through everything again as I wasn't happy with her explanations. In fairness, no rolling of eyes, etc. Story remained the same. I then questioned the STD thing and said it made no sense. She thought about it a bit and then said it wasn't so much the STD scare, it was the fact she had admitted the affair with J2 to J1. J1 basically said to her, you know that I will divorce her for this, no question. Your life is over, you have no choices here. My marriage is failing, we've always had a connection. Why don't we get together and make it work? Honestly don't know if that is more lies or truth, but just sharing here. I then said, would you be prepared to take a poly to confirm this is true, as I don't believe anything you say anymore? She said yes, although doesn't believe they are accurate. But I said, well, I will arrange one. Okay then. Also said I want to see your medical records. Yes, I will request them. Then later that day I just thought, what am I doing here? Even if this is true, the situation is so bad I'm not sure I could continue, so I told her I just wasn't feeling this anymore. That my breakaway had cleared my head and I think the only way forward is I divorce you. Actually, I was expecting pleading etc., but instead got okay, that's fair enough if that's what you need. Then in the evening we sit and start going through the practicalities, where would daughters live etc. I think at that point she realized I was serious and started to scramble, what can I do etc. I am so ashamed. I have broken our family. I was selfish. I've hurt you so much. I've seen the pain on your face. I then said this is never going to work and you're F in the head and need help. She agreed she was. Anyway, guessing this is where I get flamed. I said to her, get help for yourself. Show me you want us to survive this with your actions. I want those records and the poly and then we'll see. So I am basically giving this more time. Thanks again all. For me at this point and reading these threads, I think it's becoming more obvious she wanted to be with J1. This was planned for, and after his divorce he waited for her to do the same, except she didn't for whatever reason ever pull the trigger. J2 just seems a first step, but she absolutely could see herself with J1 longer term. He was the one who essentially kicked her to the curb when this came crashing down, not the other way around. Although she is saying her actions at that time made him think this was never going to happen, so to speed things up by confessing all and expecting me to divorce her, giving her nowhere else to go except back to him. Either that or he just decided he was tired of her and would ruin our lives by exposing. Great guy all around. There is no other explanation really, and I am starting to think most of the grief I am seeing is actually her getting over J1. Reader comment, actually, I was expecting pleading etc., but instead got okay, that's fair enough if that's what you need. This tells you all that you really need to know. She is not willing to fight for you because she has checked out and moved on. Original poster, yep, I get that, but then she started with promises to change. I am thinking that's when the reality set in, that her life would change into something very different to now. I am not going to go for the same old, absolutely not, and I've said that it's all in and I need to see actions aplenty or I'm out. People keep saying on these threads truth now or it's D. I know I have been TT'd this entire time, but how can I possibly threaten that when I don't know if it is the truth, and I can't prove a negative? Reader comment, I'm not a big fan of ultimatums, unless someone means it through and through. But it's not a bad idea for you to work towards divorce if you are not getting the actions needed to recommit to your marriage. The more you emotionally detach, the clearer that you will see things, for the better or for the worse. Remember, it's not your job to prove what is the truth, it is her job to prove this to you. That means huge efforts on her behalf. Unfortunately, you are not getting any of this. At least not at this time. I am willing to bet that although your wife is saying some things that are hopeful to reconcile, it just doesn't feel right in your gut. This part, in my opinion, is important. I know, looking back with the benefit of time in my own situation, that I was too concerned looking for positive steps and giving them more credit than they deserved. That I tried to convince my uneasy gut feeling that it was okay. Truth was that it wasn't. I can tell you today that you will feel if it's right. It isn't just about the actions she does or does not perform. It is the effort and mindset that go along with it that give us some level of comfort. Basically, what I'm trying to say is not to force any feelings of comfort upon yourself. If it comes, let it come naturally. Right now, by what you have posted, no sincere efforts have been made. And as tough as it is, you are probably correct about her mourning over her AP. That's a tough pill to swallow, and you don't have to tolerate it. You are free to walk any time that you wish, but if you are watching and waiting, don't be surprised by what you are witnessing. Everybody's level of tolerance is different. You do what you feel is right. Original poster, thanks all again. You're right in that it doesn't feel right. It's the same unease I had that made me go looking originally. Something is off, way off. I'm just thinking we've both had this terrible experience. Not saying the wayward wife is anyway a victim here. Hope you know what I mean. Though she has her own SHT to deal with in terms of shame etc. Also found the term, letting guard down, an interesting one. Don't think I will ever do that again, which means even if we do remain together, I will always be wondering. Not a great place to be. Does that ever go away? Reader comment, have you asked your wayward wife if she will be going back to J1 if you file for D? I think you handled that well. You have your line in the sand. Continue to detach and work on the D. It is not for you to prove anything. That is the heavy lifting your wayward wife should be doing. If she can do that to your satisfaction, the divorce can take a backseat to a possible R. If that is what your decision. JMO though, you can pause the divorce, but it should be there till deep into R. Responding to your comment, and I quote, he was the one who essentially kicked her to the curb when this came crashing down, not the other way around, although she is saying her actions at that time made him think this was never going to happen, so to speed things up by confessing all and expecting me to divorce her, giving her nowhere else to go except back to him. To me, this is human nature. The problem I see is your wayward wife is hurt, upset by the position J1 put her in. The problem I see is that will wear off and wayward wife will see it as the great sacrifice the boss made to prove his love. Rainbows and uniform farts. Stay strong, brother. I want to say I feel like much more has happened with J1, and J1 was likely her first. I get the feeling she's kept up a large lie regarding her values and saving herself for you. That's just my gut. I don't think most people are capable of change until their environment has changed. Therein lies the issue with R, at least in my mind. Have you asked your wayward wife if she will be going back to J1 if you file for D? Original poster. During DD1 she said something like don't push me towards him. At that point I suspected an affair, but couldn't prove it. A week later at DD2 she said don't want to be with him. Obviously DD2 came about following him, kicking her to curb, so she had no choice at that point anyway. Also, just to say I think he's already moved on to someone else. Oh, and I can guarantee if she pursues this now her entire family will disown her. They hate him more than I do, and that's saying something. One other point here. I cannot stand the thought of this boss anywhere near my children now I know his full capability. That is definitely one of the reasons I don't want to kick her out and expose them to him. The problem I see is that will wear off and wayward wife will see it as the great sacrifice the boss made to prove his love. I think I have to talk to J1. He is a total boss, but if he hadn't exposed, I fully expect I would have been none the wiser following DD1. Wayward wife certainly wasn't going to admit it. Thanks all again for the posts, however hard they are to read. As I said earlier in this thread before I posted here, I read a good deal on this forum. When I used to read on the JFO group I would be the first to be thinking just do it. Get rid, move on. And yet here I am with my own thread hanging on to something which I already know is gone. Do I look at my wayward wife the same as I did? Of course not. Can I believe this is the person I married? No, I can't. And then my wonderful friend of 30-plussers. Another betrayal. I hate the fact she has ruined my family. I hate the fact I trusted two people, and this was the result. I can't see me trusting anyone like this again. Reader comment. I guess what I mean is, from what I've seen, R is quite a bit of work. But at least for a while, it seems most of the work falls on the BS. Very generally speaking, there isn't much incentive for the wife to do much to return to homeostasis until there are real, perceivable consequences. Their life needs to fall apart for them to pick to see what has happened and for them to decide if they will pick up the pieces or remain broken. If you're in R, one way or another you're going to be the duct tape that shoddily keeps everything together until it eventually falls apart. And if you're still there when that happens, maybe you'll have a shot at being one of the luckier stories. D is for you first and foremost, but it could also be an expedited way for your wife to change as well. Not that I have any intention to get back with my ex, who was the one that didn't want to R but going through D, living with her AP, and their child, failing, and then seeing how our friendship is still there and how much I care for her kid has at the very least given her a lot to reflect on. I don't think she'd have ever shown remorse if we had decided on the R route. But divorce has led to some strong moments between us. Original poster. Thanks, that makes sense to me now. Reader comment. You should revisit the conversation when your wife admits she is not in love with you. This is by far the worst possible situation, especially when it comes to R. You generally just won't get much out of a wayward wife if she isn't really in love with you. You need to ask yourself if you really want to try to fix things with a woman that doesn't love you the same way you love her. Original poster. I have revisited that conversation a number of times and I get the don't feel like that anymore, I know I love you, etc. It is difficult to believe that, obviously. I have to say things have been improving lately in terms of actions and not just words, but I am skeptical most of the time, as you can imagine. Thanks all once again for your collective wisdom. Just to say I'm still lurking and reading posts. Had some time away but back now. Things are not easy, that's for sure. In terms of timelines, how detailed would you expect? I have a timeline which I think is okay, has some details I knew nothing about before. Nights away, date nights, etc. Guess the key question were J1 and J2 order. That remains the same, J2 then J1. J1 text started happening after J2 was involved, but clearly wayward wife now more confident and started to get much more friendly after J2. Wayward wife then says she confided in J1 ref J2, same story really. Totally denies anything with J1 prior. Also, medical records have been requested, clock is ticking. Oh, and me, I'm off to get tested for STDs. Well, I don't have a timeline as detailed as suggested above, and honestly, I'm not sure I even want that. However, I was interested in what it should look like. I have read all recommendations given and of course consider them all. I do not ignore anything. But I have to weigh up what's best for me and my Ds. My wayward wife does seem to be taking actions she wasn't before. She is getting into IC for herself and trying to prove to me she has told me all and being transparent. Too little too late maybe. I know people are saying to divorce or at least start the process. and I am reading that and still considering my options. I appreciate all points of view I have been given. Hello all. I'm still here looking at posts etc. Few things to update on. STD tests clear. Medical records turned up and I reviewed them. Tests etc. Match the dates I have been told. Some additional notes where my wayward wife told the MD what had been going on. One early entry in 2017 and then another 18 months later. Nothing else relevant really, so no surprises. Had an interesting talk about her. I see where I said when it is starting and got that didn't think I needed it anymore as we have been getting on well. I did say it's not for me, it's for you. Whoever you end up with needs to know they have a safe partner. You are not a safe partner at the moment. I also told her the old marriage is dead. You killed it. If we ever moved forward it would have to be a new marriage, and quite frankly knowing now what I know, I wouldn't be the one to marry you. Cue the tears and looks of total shock. I was going to give these 6 months to make the final decision. Unfortunately, my own work situation looks like it's going to be changing very soon due to COVID downturns etc., which could make things very difficult, more so than now. I also decided to contact both J1 and J2 and send messages as I want to talk. Nothing back yet. Reader comment. So, in essence, your cheating wife was trying to rug sweep her past affairs and avoid counseling. Wow, she's a bit clueless about this, isn't she? If she read one book or article or listened to a podcast or watched a YouTube video, she'd know how wrong and damaging that behavior is. So sorry for you that you had to face that, but I can tell you that you did the best thing possible by telling her about a new marriage if in fact you stay together. It just irks me when cheaters do almost nothing to reconcile. It just shows the continued selfishness patterns continue. Original poster. Yes, that is very true. I think she would like nothing better for this just to go away. It is also becoming clearer just how self-centered she really is. I come away from some of our conversations thinking, wow, it really is all about you, isn't it? I haven't decided anything as yet. I always said I would give this some time to see what actions the wayward wife takes. My update gives you a little window into those actions, I guess some of which she seems to be backtracking on. I have said she needs, I see she agreed but then didn't follow up as an example. At the end of the day it's looking more like divorce than R at this point, but my personal circumstances are now seriously screwing this up in terms of plans to just be able to start over. I have contacted J2 as I want to look him in the eye but also to see if he is still in contact with my wayward wife. If she mentions anything about it, I will know. If not, then I still want to talk. His wife knows nothing about this. J1, some other posters have suggested talking to him and it's been long enough that I do want to see what he has to say that my wayward wife didn't want me to see. Thanks all. Again, taking on board all comments and appreciate the responses. Sorry, it's been a while. Loads of issues to deal with at my company. Had to make 100+ layoffs this past week, so unfortunately things are not going very well on that front. And honestly, that's where I have been spending most of my focus recently. In terms of wayward wife, I had a frank conversation about I see no more sitting about waiting. Just basically said do it and do it now. Her first session is this week. She's also reading Healing from Infidelity, which seems to be hitting home at some level. She seems to be finally understanding the hurt she has caused more so than previously. I'm finding myself detaching more and more from her. That may be due to the work situation, I don't know. My only issue is I don't sleep. I'm literally up all night thinking about both situations and how it's all just come at once. Otherwise, I am keeping myself fit. Genuinely think I'm in the best shape I've been for years. Externally, you would probably say we are acting normally. Mostly this is for the sake of my Ds. I have heard back from J2. I had to push a bit to get a response. Basically said I was going to turn up at his house for a chat if I didn't get a response. He of course started saying stuff like moved out and no longer lives there. Wife kicked him out, etc. He also sees no reason to meet and talk. After a few messages back and forth, I basically thought no point in talking to this a whole any longer as he's full of SHT. Not heard anything back from J1. Thanks for post. I also wonder how on earth can you sleep at night? Oh, he's totally full of SHT. I know that his wife has no clue. And as far as I can tell, he still lives there. The OBS still has all her social media as married. It's one of the issues I had highlighted earlier in my thread. Oh, and it's not the first time he's used that line either, as that's the BS he also told my wayward wife. Reader comment. I still say your biggest hurdle is her ability to convince you that you're the love of her life. And not J1. I think J1 is probably always going to have a place in her heart. That's something I couldn't live with. I'd need her to hate him. I'd need her to stand beside me and be able both she herself and J1 were pieces of crap to do what they did. And J2 was nothing, an insignificant dead ant on the bottom of her shoe. But he's not the issue here. It's all J1 if I am gathering this correctly. And until he's the worst person on the planet to her and you are absolutely the best, there's nothing that's gonna allow you to find happiness with her. Original poster. Think you're spot on. It's almost like J2 was a test run for the main event. J1. He was the exit that eventually went wrong. Would she ever admit that? Would she run off with him if he turned up at my front door? I just wanted to reply here today to say thanks to you all for your advice and support. I am grateful for the advice given, however hard it has been to read at times. In hindsight, I wish I had posted here before I started the whole detective bit on my own when I had that first gut feeling something wasn't right. It is amazing how similar some of the other stories are on these threads. I was blaming myself for a while, thinking if only I had etc. Coming here made me see and think differently. I should also have said I see myself, but only for approx. 6 weeks. It helped, and I may go back. I won't be posting regular updates for a while. I need to focus on the welfare of my teams who are now going through their own personal tough situations. It's certainly not goodbye, mind you. Be back soon, I'm sure. Take care all.